Mr. Hughes here. We're going to do a lecture which centers on test-taking strategies and specifically geared towards the multiple choice. Now, I'm doing a course in United States history, and that's in New York State with the Regents exams, so I'm kind of gearing it towards that. But I would kind of think that most state exams probably can use much of this advice. My only asterisk, my only warning for you is if you're in an AP course, I do AP American Government, or if you're in AP US or something like that, just tread lightly with my advice. Answers are much more detailed. There's a lot more that they choose from. The content's more specific. On those types of exams, they're more like college exams, like they're supposed to be. So just be a little wary, but you can listen and you might pick up some ideas. So here we go. You open up the tests and you start looking at the questions, and this is the first thing I would like you to think about doing. I don't want to make you sound crazy, but I always recommend to my kids that you read the question under your breath, where nobody really can hear it, just you a little bit. So if I was to do that now, I might do it like, you didn't hear that, did you? I don't think you did. The reason why I ask kids to do that is when you hear things, even when you say them, rather than someone else saying them, your brain kind of picks it up a little bit differently. If you think of just reading it, it's like kind of getting the information one way. You know, your brain's got to kind of interpret it from what your eyes are looking at, and there's, you know, some translations that go on there. And sometimes get lost in translation. You've done it before. You've written the essay and you haven't read it out loud, and then the teacher calls you up and said, listen to this. And he reads something you wrote and you go, oh my goodness, right? Or you get the question wrong because you didn't see the word accept, right? Or some negative word or something like that. When you read it out loud, you're not getting it from one way, you're getting it two ways. You're getting auditory as well. So please don't get me in trouble and, you know, sound like a crazy man outside store talking to himself. But I would recommend kind of under your breath as you read along, just really quietly read it out loud. Not out loud, you want to say out loud, under your breath. And I think that'll help. But again, make sure it's okay with your teacher and your proctors. Okay, so now you're doing that. Hopefully that's helping you a little bit, right? I'm going to press the button before my camera goes off. There we go. Thank God for edits. All right. So now you're ready. You're reading them under your breath. You're maybe hearing it a little bit differently. And this is my advice. Number one, trust your gut. You've learned some things, believe it or not. Some of you a lot more than other kids. But if you were in class and you were paying attention, sometimes you learn things. And a lot of times, kids start doubting themselves. You know, how can I understand that? Why am I thinking it's that answer? If you get a little bit of a gut feeling, something kind of pops out, something sounds right, I would trust my gut, unless I had a really good reason to go back. Oh, wait a minute. Korematsu's World War II, it can't be that. Like a factual realization, a little Oprah moment. Don't change your initial gut reaction. You've done it before. You've changed your answer, and then you found out that you shouldn't have done it. So my first piece of advice is trust the gut. Trust your instinct. Now, my second piece of advice is specifically for state regents kinds of exams. This doesn't really work in AP courses. Blankets, not washcloths. Answers are generally big answers that are broad and thematic in nature. So what I would say is if you think about how big the answer is, which one's bigger? You ready? Rights are limited during times of crisis. General Lee fought for the South in the Civil War. Which one can you apply over time? Well, duh, Mr. Hughes, it's the first one. They want you to learn big things. The test in 1990, 1989, when I went to school, it was much more details. It's kind of drill and kill. Maybe that's a good thing, but that's how it was. Today, it's much more about ideas, trends, thematic ideas, theses. Is that a word? Whatever. So blankets, not washcloths. Answers that are washcloths are narrow in scope. They're small. They only apply to certain areas of history. Answers that are blankets are broad and cover large aspects of history. This doesn't work all the time. Mr. Hughes is not making you any promises, but I think that this is a good guessing strategy. Number two, maybe number three, gut, blankets. Number three, understand the types of answers provided on the test. There's usually four. AP, they give you five. Doesn't work for AP. But on state exams, they give you four. A, B, C, and D, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So obviously one of them is the right answer, right? One of them is a throwaway answer. There should be one you can toss immediately. It's out of context. It makes no sense. You've never heard it before. Unless you're cutting class or you're sick, if you look at a term and you haven't heard it before, barely, doesn't register, it's probably not the answer. You've heard elastic clause. You don't know what it means, maybe, right? Hope you do. But if you see elastic clause, that's not a throwaway answer. But if you see something, you know, I don't want to give you one that's going to be on the test because they've done it before. Albany Plan of Union. Do you know it? If you've never heard it before, it's probably not the answer. And watch, they ask it this year and I become a dead man. Once in 20 years I've seen that question. So, throw away that answer. Process of elimination. Number 2, there's an answer that's correct for another question. Answer that's correct for another question. So they ask you about the decision in Korematsu versus United States, right? Korematsu. It's a Japanese sounding name. I'm hoping that helps you remember. This is our World War II case on Japanese Americans and the writ of habeas corpus, and how the Supreme Court upheld the denial of habeas corpus, probably based a little bit on racism. Sorry for my friends out there who disagree, but we did not lock up Italian Americans or German Americans. But nevertheless, the court argued that during times of crisis, that we can kind of infringe on civil rights in order for the greater good. So you get that question, and you look at one of the answers, and it says, you ready for this? Desegregated Americans public schools. And you maybe aren't really paying attention in class a lot. You look at the answer and you go, that happened. I know that. I don't remember the court case, but we desegregated schools. The answer is, sucker, they gotcha. So be weary. And if you can try to find, an answer that sounds good, just double check. Is this the right one or is this the trick one? Now, there's usually an answer that's opposite of the idea. All right? We've narrowed it. We've gotten rid of 2. Throwaway answer, trick answer. The third one is generally, not all the time, but generally something that's opposite or near the answer but not correct. So like the Korematsu, they'll give the answer, civil rights can be denied absolutely. Or civil rights can be thrown out, right? Or you do not have civil rights in America. Those are the answers designed to trick you. For you to look at it and say something like, oh, it's about civil rights. Maybe it's that one. So look for, those kind of answers that maybe are opposite. Just be careful. I know that's not easy to do if you don't know your history, but it's nice to know the time. All right, and then obviously there's the right answer. So guessing elimination style, throwaway answer, answer correct for another question, the site, gotcha, and the answer that's near the answer or opposite of the answer. So those are the hardest ones. The ones that's close to it, those are usually the ones you're staring at. So whatever, here we go. Number 3 or 4, whatever it is in terms of guessing strategies. We'll review because we only have 2 minutes or 3 minutes left. Number 4 is to avoid absolutes. Absolutes are difficult things to do in history. These are what I call my 100% answers. Sometimes I'll refer to them to even 90% answers. 100% word is a word like all. I'll give you an example. All Eskimos love snow. Come on, how in the world would you know that? You don't know, right? So when you see the word all, or every time, or never, or the 98% words like mostly and sometimes, absolutely is 100%, avoid them. I mean, unless it's, the elastic clause, Congress shall make all laws necessary, very rarely do I see that. So that's kind of something that you can throw out if you see it. And I'm trying to think off the top of my head, maybe another thing, a fifth thing, is let's say you don't know really anything, but you see a word and it pops out. I don't know, elastic clause. Nothing else has worked for you. I'd go with it. Most of all, get on the studying, guys. Regentsprep.org is a great site. I have notes at hiphughes.blogspot.com. Visa, MasterCard accepted. But definitely get on it. There's tons of multiple choice online that you guys can try. And they only ask probably, 100, 125 types of questions. And if you go through them enough, you're going to do it. All right? You get 35 out of 50, and you can write I hate school in one of the essays. Don't do that. That's a really bad idea. But definitely good luck, guys. It's been good. Okay.